Head scratcher, man. Another head scratcher, conundrum, confusion, chaos, near calamity in trying to figure out how the Calvinist Reformed tulip people come to their conclusions. Here's another head scratcher. It's not a head scratcher. It's food for thought as to the garden, the fall of man, original sin, which I know are doctrines of grace, doctrines of the Reformed theologists. So, in listening, though, to Calvinist talk, they often say, well, God is omniscient, right? He knows all things. And then they ask me, hey, do you think God knew that Adam would fall? And of course, anyone who's a born again Christian who's trying to actually learn what Jesus wants of him and cultivate the relationship would answer, yes, of course, God knows all things. And he knew that Adam was going to fall. And then, of course, they're going to argue, and it's a good argument. It's a pretty good argument. Well, if he knew that they were going to fall, doesn't that in some sense make God the author of evil and the author of sin because he allowed it and he saw over it? And okay, so that's a fairly good argument, but simple. It's all right there in Genesis 1 through Genesis. There's more than one Genesis. Just kidding. Genesis 1 through 3, it's all there with careful reading. And this is 3 chapters I've dug through quite extensively. So have we considered that seems like Satan already existed, and we know that Satan's the father of lies. He comes to rob, steal, and destroy, and I think that means everything. Rob people of their life. I am the way, the truth, the life. Rob your manhood, rob by actually stealing, rob your thoughts, rob your joy. So Satan's the original offender. I believe he had free will and he chose to use his beauty and his strength to go against God. And well, he got banished. Matthew 25, 41, 46. And anyway, and bound for hell. But Satan already existed. And he came to an environment that was perfect. It was perfectly made, perfectly designed. Humans were perfect. These humans had only perfect thought. They only knew what was right and correct. So as soon as Satan shows up, could that be the weak link in the garden? Yep, God allowed Satan as a free creature to come into the garden, but he didn't share Satan's wicked thoughts. God didn't share his half-twisted truths. God certainly didn't present Satan's voice, which gave the twisted truths, half-truths, the temptation. So, again, you can read some of this for yourself, but Satan, beautiful, smart, one of the, apex creations of God. He used his own God-given faculties to get the woman to think incorrectly. Satan introduces the wrong thought. So it's not by God's decree that Adam sinned. I mean, food for thought. It's a possibility that Satan is really responsible because he brought evil. He brought half-truths. He brought skewed truths. He brought temptation. He brought something out of the norm into what Adam and Eve started to enjoy as the norm. Beautiful animals, fruit, trees, and beauty, each other. And now all of a sudden you got another talking creature. That wouldn't be so weird because maybe you wouldn't know any better as Adam and Eve. You're in your first weeks of creation. By the way, we've got more support for this theory, and this is just food for thought. And again, I scratch my head as to how the conclusions of Calvinists come to be when there's so many other good interpretations that don't ever impugn the character of God. We know 1 Corinthians 10:13 says God doesn't tempt, and if he does, if temptation happens, man is offered a way out. James 1:13, God doesn't have incorrect thoughts. He doesn't present falseness, half-truths to anybody. So there you go. There's the food for thought about the garden, Satan, Genesis.